So bacteria are pretty much everywhere. The prokaryotes we know are the eubacteria and archaeobacteria. They are microscopic, they're all over, they're inside our body, they're on the doorknob, they're on your phone, they're everywhere. So what makes them so plentiful? Why are there so many more bacteria than there are humans, for example? We are more highly evolved, shouldn't there be more humans than bacteria? So here we go. We got our single cell unicellular bacteria. Got a couple pili over here. We got some DNA. We got some ribosomes. We got a flagella. A bacteria only has one cell, but that one cell is the entire organism. This one cell right here with one cell membrane, one cell wall is the entire creature. Now, this can be very good for some things, but also very bad for others. For example, let's look at injury. If you have one cell and that cell is damaged, your entire body basically is broken and dies. As a human, if you have many cells, which we do, and you damage your skin cells, for example, you can make new skin cells. By damaging or cutting your hand and messing up the skin, you're not going to affect your brain cells, you're not going to affect your cardiac heart cells, you're not going to affect anything important because you have so many more cells to either repair or build new ones when others break. So having one cell makes you very limited to what you can do. You don't have the ability to store a bunch of stuff or transport a bunch of stuff to other cells in the body because, again, your entire body is that one cell. So that leads us into the main problem of having one cell. And it also explains what is going on with bacteria size. So you have some bacteria that are very, very small, and then you have some bacteria that are quite large. And I say quite large, I mean quite large for bacteria. If these two squares are going to represent two bacteria, one is large, one is small. Since they're one cell, all the things inside their body, here, anywhere inside the body of this bacteria has to be able to get what it needs to survive. It needs its nutrients, it needs energy, it needs to be able to move stuff around. For example, if it needs this guy right here, this has to be able to get in and get to any of these spots within the cell pretty easily. The larger you get, the more time it takes to bounce around to these spots. So this little guy that we need needs to be able to get there quicker. If you can't get there quicker, you're going to die because you don't get it in time. Same thing for you. You need oxygen in a specific amount of time. If you hold your breath too long, you're not getting enough oxygen in a specified amount of time and stuff will start to die and have trouble. If I were to soak these two cells in a solution of whatever this guy is, this little blue ball, let's say it's some kind of nutrient solution, and I leave them in there for the exact same amount of time, say whatever this solution is can work its way through the bacteria and get pulled in through the cell membrane, like we just learned in the last unit, but it's only at a very specific rate. 1 layer per hour. It takes an hour for this nutrient to get about that far in. So let's come back in 4 hours. So here we are at 4 hours. You've gotten 4 layers in, you've made it all the way through the small cell. In this one, all this extra space in the middle never got any nutrients. We were in there the exact same amount of time, and while it may seem it's better to be a larger cell, he couldn't get the nutrients in time. Not only that, but any waste that's produced at this middle dot has to get pushed out in a normal amount of time. If you have too much waste product, just like in a human, in the body, stuck in the body, and you can't get rid of it, it's gonna start to do damage. That's why it's a waste product. It's something you can't use, and it's potentially hazardous to the body. So the same thing, we wait another 4 hours to push this thing out. 4 hours, we're already getting this waste product out of the small cell over here. Meanwhile, our big cell can only push it out so far. So even if the nutrients, the purple line, was able to get to that middle black dot where they were needed, now there's a byproduct of a process and they have to push it out. Being a bigger bacteria is not necessarily good. In fact, there is definitely a cap on the size of bacteria based on how efficiently they can move stuff in and they can move stuff out. Eventually, through natural selection and evolution, bacteria figured out that it's not great to be gigantic. That's not necessarily good. This is why you don't see bacteria rolling down the street the size of a basketball, because that has been deemed through millions of years to be inefficient and a less fit trait. However, the bacteria do need to prosper, they do need to multiply, they need to make their colony larger, so they still need to take up more space. Rather than take every single individual bacteria and make them larger, bacteria have said, okay, splitting once we reach our max size, is going to be far more efficient. So for example, once we get to the point where we are this big, this can get in and waste can get out, but any bigger and we would have the gap like our large one, now they're going to actually be able to split. Bacteria multiplication is very quick, especially compared to humans where it takes 9 months to make a baby. You got one bacteria, split into 2. Since there's not a male and a female, this is not sexual reproduction, it's asexual reproduction. Those 2 are going to split into 4, because each one splits. You split once here, you split twice here, and then on and on and on, so now this 4 becomes 8. And you can see how it's an exponential growth. The bacteria is going to take over very rapidly. Once they reach that max size where the square can no longer get stuff in and out correctly, they're going to start to split like crazy. Bacteria splitting and bacteria division can be influenced by a bunch of variables. You can have heat for sure. I mean, think of food. This is why you have a refrigerator. You keep stuff colder because when it's cold, it inhibits the growth of bacteria a little bit. Warmer temperatures, even something as warm as just room temperature, like the middle of your counter, you leave the pizza out on the counter, your house is like 72 degrees, that's warmer than your fridge, which is usually like 34, 35. The bacteria growth on the counter is exponentially more aggressive than it is inside the refrigerator. They can multiply so fast, why have they not taken over? A couple reasons. Again, they're very, very simple. They're one cell. They can't do a bunch of crazy stuff, so they're still kind of lower evolved life form. It also is why they can multiply so fast, because there's not a lot of complexity. The complexity of the human takes a long time to develop and build. A bacteria does not take a whole lot of time to split, because it's very simple. The blueprints are 1 page compared to a human blueprint of I don't know, made up number, 2,500 pages. Sure, that sounds right. But every time our bacteria splits and becomes 2, that is a new generation for that bacteria. This could take 10 minutes. There you go, that bacteria split in 10 minutes instead of 9 months. So now I have 2 bacteria already. The thing about this is, since it's asexual, this is a perfect copy compared to the other one. It literally just split in half. It didn't get anything new or cool. It just split. This means it can multiply very, very rapidly, but it also can become a little bit more fragile. What I mean by fragile is, when we were doing natural selection, the diversity of traits is better. If you have a bunch of bacteria that are black and a disease comes in that wipes out that specific color or whatever the trait black was, the whole thing, as in the whole population, gets destroyed. However, if you were able to be more diverse, like animals that go through sexual reproduction, and that same disease comes in and wipes out all whatever that black trait was, there's still a good handful of bacteria surviving, so it's not necessarily a death sentence. So this is where bacteria can become very dangerous. If I have Mr. Bacteria over here, and he splits into 2. Like I said, it's a perfect copy, 2 circles. However, there's always the chance that Mr. Bacteria can go through a mutation. He's supposed to be making a perfect copy, but there's always a chance that there's a typo and he makes something different. This guy right here, this purple on the bottom right. This guy has a trait, and in this case, let's say the trait is resistance to an antibiotic. You take antibiotics when you're sick. Antibiotic means anti-living. It kills living organisms like bacteria. It really is based on infection, sinus infection, respiratory infection, stuff like that. You're going to take antibiotics for it. This is why it's very important that you take your antibiotics for the entire time. They say, okay, here's 10 days worth of antibiotics. You may feel better within 3-4 days. Do not stop taking your antibiotics, because what you've essentially done, so if our guy down here, the purple guy with the red box, needs double the dose of antibiotics to be killed because he's just, by freak mutation, stronger against that antibiotic, your antibiotics are going to kill these guys off first. If you take your antibiotic for the full dose, you can probably kill this guy. Let's assume he is resistant to antibiotic. He's not immune to it, he's resistant. That means he needs more of it. So if you keep taking it for the rest of the time, he'll probably die also. However, say you take it for 4 days. This guy dies on day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4 hits this guy, but he needs double the dose, and then you stop. Now, the only thing remaining in your body is Mr. Resistant guy down here. So his job, again, is to multiply quickly. What you're going to get is you're going to start to get an entire colony of bacteria that is all resistant. Now we have evolution of bacteria happening in a very small scale compared to ours. We can actually witness the evolution of this bacteria. It happens every year with the virus. The virus is the same way. It mutates and survives and becomes resistant. That's why our flu shots change every year. But because their generations are so short, remember, this could take 10 minutes. And all of a sudden now, we have 2 of these resistant bacteria. You can have a crazy resistant strain of bacteria pop up within a week, all because you didn't finish your antibiotic and kill them all off. What you did is you basically eliminated all the weaker ones and let the stronger survive. You were natural selection for this bacteria, when in fact you should have been the Grim Reaper and tried to kill them all at the same time. Instead, you've actually created a stronger population through natural selection and evolution. So make sure you take your antibiotics, because we do not need bacteria taking over the world and wiping us all out. We need to get medicine, we need to get vaccinations, we need to make sure stuff is not going to go crazy and populate the world, because I'm sick of seeing people pop up with crazy flu strains and polio and all this nonsense. Take your medicine, take it correctly, listen to your doctors, and don't let bacteria win.